Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cosmic Metamorphosis. My name is Kat. It's a little glitchy today on my internet, so hopefully this video will come out okay. Hello to all my family. Hello. Are you feeling the pressure? Oh my goodness. Yeah, here in the US, after Tuesday's November 8th election, there was a red wave, but there's a few states that yeah, people are having a fit about. So yeah, the letter 17 posting about how you can't tell people, you must show them. Yeah, people have seen, people have finally seen that elections are being stolen. Okay, right in front of them. So I said a long time ago, we're gonna get to a point here in the US that I think we will see, particularly in major cities, hopefully, we will see people taking to the street in protest. I think we have to see that. I think we have to follow what Brazil's doing, what Europe is doing everywhere. That is the only way uh, for another just wave of awakening for the people that are dumbed down. I think people you need to realize you got to stand up for yourself. You got to stand up. We the people, it's we the people, okay, that run ourselves. We only have representatives for us, and if they don't do the work for us like we tell them to, we fire them. We get someone else, okay? That's how our Constitution works. So, yeah, we need to go back to those days. And I do think it's time after this that we take to the streets and protest, peaceful protest, okay? Um, but we need to see it. So, we'll see. We'll see if that happens. Like I said, it is very hard for some people, though, that me like myself, I have to, a lot of us have to go to work to pay the bills, to survive, to pay for food. My goodness, I went to the store last night. I barely got a half a cart full of groceries. Um, and it was $185 for half a cart of food. Like I got one little roast, which was like $12, which wasn't that bad. Um, that was the only meat that I bought. Um, I bought like onions and garlic and broccoli. Like the produce is expensive. The dairy is very expensive because I bought several things of cheese, so that's expensive. And then I bought a few like cleaning products. Yeah, 185 freaking dollars. So I'm just disgusted. Ugh, you guys. Okay. Well, tomorrow is Veterans Day. Today is November 10th. It is my birthday today. So, yeah, I am, and most women don't like to say their age, but I am 52. I turned 52 today. Um, I, you know, I wish I was back in my 40s so I would feel a little bit better, but it's not bad, you know. Um, my mother was 52. She was my age when she passed away from pancreatic cancer. So, yeah, I'm very grateful that I am healthy and I'm still here because I'm here to kick ass like the rest of you guys, right? Okay, so today we're going to talk about Alex Collier's question and answer October 14th, number 28. So this one, he was very, like, very, very passionate and he was really pissed off in the beginning. So let me just warn you, there's some language. Um, yeah, and then I'm transcribing the 28th. So since the 21st he was in Florida, So now I'm doing the 28th recently, so hopefully next week I can get that out. But um, hopefully with Veterans Day, there's supposed to be. We'll see what events happen, things happening. I've heard rumors about this weekend, since Veterans Day is falling on a Friday, it's going to be like kind of like a holiday weekend, and they're going to take or close all the banks, and um, they're going to put the QFS in. And then, of course, Trump is supposed to speak on the 15th from Mar-a-Lago. So we will see. We will see what happens. Let's hope. Let's hope, right? Because I think a lot of us are really tired. We're worn. I have my days. I'm feeling better lately, though. Like I'm feeling really energized today, especially like because I guess the sun is out and it's beautiful, and I just love it. And skies are blue. There's puffy white clouds, and so I just have a really, really good positive feeling. Okay, so anyway. So let's get into Alex Collier's question and answer, October 14th. He says, folks, he says, those of you who are on Telegram, those on Signal, as you know, there's been some shit stirring this week. He kind of laughs and he says, a lot of it had to do with my interview with Michael Sala. Dr. Sala and Michael, if you're here, or Angelica, or you're doing the housework and you're listening to this, he said, tell Michael we need to have another chat, okay? He says, so I'm going to address, he says, I was called a psyop, myself and Elena, and I'm going to address it this way, and I'm going to say something about it. Number one, everyone has a voice. We either have free speech or we don't. I would prefer to have free speech and stand next to someone who would be shouting at the top of their lungs something I diametrically oppose with every breath in me, than not to be able to speak at all. Says, so, is it right to walk into a movie theater and yell fire? Says, no, it's not. Things happen and there should be consequences to that. But free expression of ideas has to be allowed. There's no freedom at all if there is no right to free expression, which is why free speech is important. And every single one of us has to defend the right to readdress grievances. It says we absolutely have to have that right. So having said that, do I like everything that's said? No. But I choose, he says, I choose where to direct my energy, okay? And who I choose to listen to. He says it's really pretty simple. So one of the biggest issues regarding the controversy of Inky and Enlil is the fact we don't know our freaking history. Absolutely, I totally agree with that. It has been hidden from us. Now, if you've read the book, The Naked Bible, then you're already ahead of the curve. But for those of you who haven't, you need to. So let me continue to address this issue. There was a city in Syria called Mari. It had other names. It was known by Maria, I think, or that's how it was spelled, and it was an ancient city that was destroyed roughly around 2 BC by another kingdom. I believe it was a Babylonian king. When archaeologists got to it, they found 26,000 cuneiform tablets. Now, at the time, Syria was a French colony, a French protectorate. It says, so the tablets went to Paris, the French International Museum, where they began to decipher the tablets. It says, naturally, when it comes to history, the Vatican got very interested because they are one of the leading culprits, Vatican and Rome, of destroying our history to hide what was real, because they created this whole bullshit narrative of what our history was. This whole bullshit narrative of what our history was for control. I'm going to write something here real quick. Sorry. Something I want to add at the end. So, as the deciphering went on, the church convinced the ciphers to no longer they actually forbid them to print the results because it would undermine all of the world's religions. That is an exact quote. Let's go to Dead Sea Scrolls. They were found, they were uncovered. Some of them were sent here to Pasadena for deciphering, and exactly the same thing happened when they were deciphering it. It told a very different biblical narrative. And the church came in and took the scrolls back because they don't want us to know our history. Of course, right? Bastards. So, let me make sure I have my volume turned up too. Okay. So we're arguing about Inky and Enlil, two brothers who did not get along and to this day still have issues with each other as to who's light and who's dark. He says, now the information, he says, I have shared, I can verify. In fact, I have more information that I'm going to share with Dr. Sala. Okay. So for those of you that have a problem with what I've said, he says, I'm going to light your hair on fire. He says, and I can't wait to fucking do it. He says, because you don't know what you're talking about. So there, you want to pitch a fight? He says, you got one. You got one now, okay? He says, and I got the information from a 5D source. That's real. That's physical. That tells me what happened. He says, now you're going to find out. He says, now Inky is in the solar system, okay? Elena said he is offering the 12-strand DNA. If anybody had it, it would be him. Now, that's what I said. That's what I said. He said, understand this. No one said he was coming to Earth. The whole idea here is to get all the regressives off, and they don't want any extraterrestrials here, including boots on the ground. We can figure it out ourselves. I have said that since day one. Now, we're getting rid of the Satanists. We are getting rid of the pedophiles. We are getting rid of those doing human trafficking on planet and off planet. Does that sound like a satanic situation for you? It says, does that sound like they're in charge? No, they're not. They're not in charge. They're getting their ass kicked, and it should have happened thousands of years ago. So we could have been free and evolved by now. Get off your ass and do the research. Don't peddle information from anybody else and pick and choose what you liked and then turn around and put it back on us, the originators of the information. God damn it, he says, you lazy sons of bitches. Oh my goodness, he was really fired up. We've invested so much time, so much energy. We have taken so many shots across the bow. In on our heads to our families, and you're gonna sit there on your computer and channel some fucking bullshit. He says, I'm so over this. I am so over this crap. He says, you have no idea after all this time how over this I am. And I didn't do this for me. I was doing this for humanity. And it's a shame that here we are at this place where obviously everything's changing, where everything's moving to the light. We're moving to a higher vibration, and you have some morons who want to stay stuck in the old narrative. You haven't got a fucking clue, he says. And I said it right to you, and you guys know who I'm talking to. You haven't got a fucking clue. Jesus Christ, he said. The Old Testament is plagiarized history of the Babylonians, Chaldeans, and Sumerians. The wanderers, the gypsies, wrote themselves into the narrative so they would have a history. The gypsies, the Talmudic Hebrews, and others considered the Goyim, the rest of us, animals because we're not the chosen by Jehovah to be animals, to be slaves. That's their opinion. It's always been their opinion. There's even YouTube videos of these rabbis bragging about feeding us our own children. It's on YouTube. It's still there. That's why Israel's going to be last. That doesn't mean all Jews or Hebrews are awful. They're not. He says that twice. They're not. But there is a group that he says they're diabolical. They're just diabolical. They're part of the Khazarian mafia. They control the world's finances. They're all together. It's a clique. And for those who join them, who pretend to be Christians, who pretend to be Muslims, who pretend to be Buddhists, and whatever other religion, they're traitors. They have sold out all of humanity, including their own families, for power. And their power is all based on money, paper with pictures on it, because that's all it is. We're going to learn the real history. We have to. They cannot hide it. Some of it is going to be horrible to hear, and maybe they'll use holographic technology, the Alliance et al., and they will show us some ancient scenes from history. Wouldn't that be cool? Yes. Like the burning of the Library of Alexandria, the sinking of Lemuria, the sinking of Atlantis, okay? The flooding of Noah, the tipping of the Earth's planet, okay? When Nibiru came through, the destruction on Mars, maybe they will show us all of that. I hope so. I do. I hope so. Because that's a wake-up call. That's not only a wake-up call, but it tells you who you are. That they would invest all this time, all this energy to enslave us, to go as far as to erase tens of thousands of years of history, maybe even millions of years. So, up there, everyone is checking each other's work. The Alliance is checking our work. The White Hats, everybody is checking each other's work. No one's getting away with anything. And if there's a unit or a team up there that says, we don't want you to check our work, they are flown to the edge of the solar system, he says, and told not to come back. Do you understand? And if you think 1/3 of the galaxy is here just to screw us over, when they could have allowed all of us to be killed by the, then you're a bigger moron than I realized. Said nothing can stop what's coming. Some of you are already consciously in 5D. Today, he said, I'm not. He says, I'm so far from it today because I'm so over this nonsense. Some of you are already consciously in 5th. Many of us, me excluded today, are in 4th. So physically, some of us are in 4th, going back and forth. That's all I'm going to say. Which is what I told you was going to happen 30 plus years ago. That the kids would be first. That's why they're being targeted. It's another reason they're being targeted. I told you this. He says, look, you're all going to do what you're going to do, and that's fine. You have free will. Yes, free will does exist. It's limited because there's so much information we don't have, but we all do the very best we can every single day. If you think for a minute that the church or any of the churches, if you think for any minute the government, all of the governments would not lie to us and had not lied to us, he says, then you're Forrest Gump. He says, you're just Forrest Gump. Because they all have, and they have done it continuously. If you're a parent, there are some things you have not told your children potentially. Lie to them because you didn't want them to know or you didn't think they needed to know. Okay? It happens. He says, it happens. Kind of laughed and he says, the whole world at this point is a massive conspiracy theory. The whole thing is, he says, it is, and it's unraveling. You're beginning to see it unravel from theory to fact. That's all I got for the moment about that. I know you guys want to ask questions. He says, I appreciate you listening to my rant. He says, all right, JP, let's do this. So that was his rant. Okay, so this was a question and answer webinar. So yeah, there were only a couple of them that I left out, that things he didn't know or didn't have information on. So let's see. First question. Are those of us here on Earth at the Great Awakening also lying in stasis somewhere in the future because we made the choice to be here to help during this transition? Which I wonder if this was a person, because on my last video I said go to Quantum Truth JCK. She had a video where she said, you know, maybe we really are. We're discussing maybe we were in these pods and we came in here to save, you know, the planet or help save the planet. You know, maybe we are just in this, you know, like Ready Player One, like we're going into this metaverse basically. So I wonder if she saw that. Um, and JP says that's a good question. Judy asked the question, and Alex says it is a good question. He says that simply isn't true for anybody that I know. It may be true for others, but to my knowing, to my experience, traveling to meetings and being on board other ships for meetings, etc. He says, which I usually never talk about, and I still won't talk about. There are people that I know and I recognize that are there, and some of them actually meet their 4th and 5th D selves, aspects of themselves that are physically there. You are a multi-dimensional being. That doesn't mean you can't be 2, 3, or 4 places at once, maybe even 5. It does not mean that you have to go into a cryostasis in order to have your soul here. He said, no, no, no. Remember, when this holograph was created, the dimensions were created from the highest to the lowest. You came in as an 11th density being. Then you decided to explore from 11 to 10 to 9 to 8. Some people stayed there and they're like, you know, I'm good here. I'm good at 8 or I'm good at 9. Some of us more inquisitive, more daring, more adventurous said, well, let's go see what's going on here. So we went into 7th, 6th, 5th, 4, and then we thought, oh, 3D seems like a good idea. We all need to reevaluate that decision. Absolutely, right? So we came into 3rd and we got stuck here. And we found ourselves in a situation where we got stuck. We got trapped. That trap was due to technology, dark technology, because all technology has 2 sides to it. It's all based on the intent of those using the technology. I cannot answer that question for you. He says you need to come to the conclusion yourself. But if having dreams and you're traveling when you're asleep and you find yourself on board or you find yourself with a group of other people in these dreams and you can touch you can smell, you can see color, then you're clearly not in stasis. You're there. Which, when he said that, boom, it was my astral travels. If you followed my videos, I've been on ships, I've been in schools, I've been in classrooms, learning things. But when I wake up, I don't remember it. But I've been on these ships. And if I was a good enough artist, I wish I could draw it, because in my mind's eye, I see it clear as day. Like it's just yeah, like you can touch things, you can feel things, like yeah, you're there. Absolutely. um Next question. I've heard that 87,000 new federal marshals were sworn in and not 87,000 IRS agents. What do you think about that? Is that just another rumor? And Alex says, no, it's not a rumor, and those federal agents are National Guardsmen. That's who it is. They're National Guards, they're reserve military. And that's why many National Guards from all 50 states are in other places at the moment. When they start going home to their states or come back into the country, then you know shit's going down. And I think today I saw something about National Guardsmen being everywhere. Someone had posted something on Telegram, and their husband or someone they knew was a truck driver, and they were driving from Laredo or something, and basically he got stopped like three different stops by National Guardsmen, um, checking his truck. And they asked him, are you headed home? And he said, yeah, it was going to take him like 2 days to get home. And they said, you better make it in one. So that was yesterday's post. So I'm assuming after today, like tomorrow's Veterans Day, maybe something is going to happen. Who knows? We'll see. He says, so you're going to want to pay attention to that. He says, because that's who's going to go around and do the do. He says, don't do the do. They're the ones who are going to round up the pedophiles, the human traffickers, the hardcore drug dealers. He says, if not all drug dealers, especially those trafficking the fentanyl. It's going to be the military. Local law enforcement will be backing them up. It could be that military hands them off to local law enforcement, which I wouldn't trust, especially in our town. I wouldn't trust that. To incarcerate, and then the military will come back and take them to Gitmo. Or they will hold specific military trials in specific areas of the United States. This will be going on worldwide. Each country has their white hats. Each country is deputizing, or whatever they call in other countries, their military for this specific purpose. Okay? We are cleaning house. The planet is cleaning house of this horrible debris. A great deal of focus has been on the underground facilities. In the United States, there's still some stuff going on. The largest cave tunnels and cave systems are along the New Madrid Fault. There's still some cleaning going on there in the States. Canadian military is working on the Canadian tundra area, where hunters have gone in and all they find is their heads. That's the only thing they find of them. They're going in those underground areas. He says, understand there are boots on the ground assisting in this, because in certain areas we are in over our head. So in those times, in those places, the military is backing them up as support. I know I've said this all before, he says. Do you see smoke? That's my incense. It's my dragon's blood incense. I love that smell. He says, and I'm not the only one saying this. There are others. That work is mostly done, he says, and will continue until it's done. On the surface, however, he says, well, you're seeing what's happening, okay? The exposure of corruption on all levels is occurring. This will continue. It's only going to get more pronounced in the stories and the information. He says the disclosure will grow. in not only frequency, but also in emotion, because the information that's going to be shared is how humanity has been abused and has been suffering, mostly the children, because humanity has got to have a paradigm shift as to how it looks at itself. These beings have been allowed to separate us by race, by religion, by culture, by language. They have created this huge division in humanity. And the bottom line is we have all been taken advantage of. Bastards, right? And it started with the children. Now, there are schools in California that are now teaching LGBTQ to their school children in classrooms. And at a very recent school meeting, parents meeting, Christian parents and Muslim parents joined forces to put a stop to this. That's not a little thing. That was a huge accomplishment, a huge shift, because they were, all of them, regardless of age, creed, or color, want to protect their children, our children. And if we can't get behind that, then I don't know what the Alliance is doing here. You know, when I first started talking about the kids back in the early 90s, you cannot believe the shit I got. Says you can't even imagine. Which is why I didn't talk about it for so long. Which is why when people would bring up the reptilians, I would say, I don't want to go there. It was unmerciful, he says, and I'm so glad it's now coming to light. This, the suffering, the abuse, he says, the stolen generations of children who came in with a very, very high soul frequency. It's been a long journey, folks. It's not over yet. It says, but the tide has turned. It has turned, and it's magnificent, he says. He says it twice. It's magnificent. He says, what's happening here is light, is the preservation of light, the pillars of light returning to this planet. It's not about extraterrestrials coming in and taking over. It's not happening, okay? When we get through this and humanity stands together, humanity will petition that this planet be our home. I get a little choked up. Okay. Remember, we don't own this planet. I told you this. Others lay claim to it. They're not here. We are. Okay. Next question. You said last week that the military will take over many countries and put them under martial law. The word military doesn't exactly invoke words of trust in me. Could you please go into a little more detail? And Alex says, sure. I want you to imagine that God, Christ, benevolence, whatever that looks like to you, has very quietly penetrated all the dark corners of planet Earth and has been doing it for quite some time. And slowly and surely, that light has been spreading more and more and more. Now, in every country, there's a government. That government could be military, but even in situations like that, there's light. This light has reached a point where it is going to expose all the corruption on the surface. Some in a global way, some in a local or national way. The people will not only see, but they will be shown proof of this darkness and the corruption. In the Western nations, including many Asian countries as well as Europe, the governments, the civilian governments, have become completely bought and paid for by the Rothschild banking syndicate. Money printed at will. It is nothing but paper and ink. He says that's it. That's all it is. These people have become compromised. They sold their soul to the system, and they may want to do the right thing, but they cannot cause uh, their they can't because they're compromised, and so they won't. He says, this is where you have a military that is aligned to protect the people, and they believe in that mission. They hold that mission because they took that oath when they swore allegiance. They have integrity. It says this global military op has been going on for years and years and years. Because again, we live in a duality. The only reason we haven't seen so much darkness before is because our media has betrayed everybody. All the medias around the planet have completely betrayed the people. They sold out. Bastards. I quit watching them, even local ones. I haven't watched the news in years. Oh my God, years. Says they were the first to sell out. You take the media out of this equation, the whole friggin' thing collapses on itself, and all the truth comes out. It all spills out. The only reason this hasn't happened yet with taking down the media is because they had to have all the pieces in place, so that when they took the media down, they were not only to grab the media, but all of the evidence they have been hiding and suppressing can be shown to the world. Remember, when you create a vacuum, you have to be able to fill it with light, or something else will fill it. That's how nature works, which is why I've shared with you when the federal government collapses here and locally in some states, like California, he says, God, what a disaster that place is. When you remove all that, there's a vacuum. The citizens need to fill that space. They need to fill that vacuum so we can change it for the right reasons and have control over it. So it's something we want, not something we would absolutely disdain. That was my point in sharing that information with you months ago and years ago. So that's what's happening. At some point, whenever that moment is, they will move to take down this corrupt infrastructure. They have been removing pillars of it, okay? There may just be a few pillars keeping everything up. When they remove those, it will all come down very quickly. They want to be sure to fill the vacuum with all the right people and the truth. Next question. What do the A's say about angels? There seems to be so many more named angels than 50 years ago. And I also wonder how supportive the Catholic angels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, really are. As a kid, I thought some pictures of them were rather creepy. Do you know of any angels truly supporting humanity? And Alex kind of laughs and he says, who asked that question? I said, Lynn Powell. Well done, Lynn. Hope you don't mind me using your name. And he laughs and he says, well, let's talk about the archangels. He says, there are many churches all over the world, predominantly in Christian nations. He says, I think there's some in Muslim nations that are shrines and are revered for the archangel Michael. If you go back to the early information the A's shared with me, it was their opinion that the archangels, arch, is that they controlled and protected areas of the earth from invasion and from other dangers. These groups of these arcs were fleets of starships. Each of them was led by a commander. Uriel, Raphael, Michael, Gabriel. Now I had experience on my father's birthday in February of 2003, where I was going to leave. I think he meant a near death experience. He says, and I've shared this. And after that experience, Mornay and other Andromedans were blown away. That's the only way to say it. They were blown away. They were not aware in the fifth density that these beings actually existed. Now, the presence that came to me was a woman. She was feminine, and she told me that my mother sent her. Now, I'm not sure that's the mother I had in this lifetime or the mother, the big mother. Okay. He says, I don't have an answer for that, but I can tell you that that experience has been shared throughout the fifth dimension. That being, I think this is the first time I'm saying this to anybody. That being, based on what the A's have learned, she came from 11th density. She came from 11th density. Says it doesn't mean I'm 11th density. It's not what that means at all. It just means for some reason, someone made a decision to intervene to keep me here. And I don't know any more than that. And it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean status. It doesn't mean anything like that. I don't have any answers to that, okay? Because for me, I'm good with fifth density and I know how to get home. He says, I do. But I do have obligations. I do have commitments. And I did give my word. So the way I look at this experience is I was being reminded of that. So you can take that any way you want. Most of you will. I mean, I have trouble. Man, I have trouble controlling Merlin. Never mind another human being. He laughs. Merlin's his little dog. You don't know. Next question. If non-humans and their malevolent purpose technology were rightfully removed from our planet, what 3 steps would you suggest to stabilize things worldwide during that transition? And he paused for a while and he was thinking. He says, wow. He pauses and he says, wow. Okay. He says, the first would be to acknowledge the benevolence that all of us are. The second is to understand and to know that each of us is all that is. He says the third would be to express to all of humanity that we are loved beyond measure. This would calm everyone down around everyone in the idea that they are and always will be love and the light. There is no true death. Physicality changes, even for all other living things. No single spirit lives in an organic body forever because there is no forever. The longevity of any organism is what it is, but those things with spirit always remain, regardless. If everyone understood that, they would understand that you are now and you are forever. There you have it, he says. So true. Next question. And it was basically someone had written about a topic, being that exopolitics are in chaos. Basically, Alex had some kind of comment he posted on Knights of Terra in response. And this was in response to your comment on Telegram about getting out just in time. So it was something about he was getting out of exopolitics just in time. And Alex's answer to that was, I'm going to continue doing webinars and interviews from my home, but I am not going to be traveling. I'm just not. I have so much work to do on myself as well. I have some physical healing to do. I have taken on a lot and I have internalized virtually all of it physically. And the A cancel says that I can do it myself. And I'm good with that. I'm totally good with that. Plus, I have my hands full with my own family. My kids are starting to wake up. And he smiles. Uh, and he laughs and he says, and I have to be totally present for that. I do. I have to be totally present for that. And I don't want to be traveling. I feel very safe in my space. He says, I don't even have to explain this to you guys. I really don't. But I won't be traveling. If I do, it will be a nurturing thing, a vacation thing. He says, to seeing an old friend. He says, most of my best friends have passed within the last 2.5 years. I have 2 or 3 best friends left outside Dallas and one in Eastern North Carolina, who I need to see. It's been, I think he said the name Tim, I'm not sure. I haven't seen forever. The other 2 I haven't physically met yet, but we're all old souls and we've been in the thick of it before in other places, and we all know a lot of people. But those people who we can talk to about anything and they don't judge, they give you feedback that's absolutely straight, even if it's not what you want to hear. Said people who will pick up the phone and call you and you do the same. Says, and no matter what, they have your back. Those people are few and far between. And when you lose everything and you find yourself homeless, says these are the people that are there to help you, and that's when you find out who's the real deal. I've been blessed to have people like that in my life, some who have just walked away. He says, and it hurts because you share so much of your life with them. It's like losing a loved one. There's been a lot of that, a lot of loss. He says, we've all experienced that. There's been a lot of loss, but sometimes there's no closure. So that makes it more difficult. You're very lucky if you have someone like that in your life who will support you no matter what. Um, I don't really have that. Maybe that's why I have a channel. So I have my soul family, right? Back me up and support me. So I appreciate it. It's been a lonely, lonely journey sometimes. So I think there has been for a lot of us light workers. We just feel very alone and it's very hard. It's very hard some days. So anyway, next question. What do you think of the Ascended Masters? Do you think they are part of the Matrix? Also, I've heard expansion about our chakra system may be being used to harvest our energy. Your thoughts? I don't think he answered that second one about the chakra systems in this. Alex says, the Ascended Masters is a very interesting question. He says, I've asked that when I was a kid, when contact became far more regular after I turned 16 and into my early 20s. Someone had given me an Elizabeth Prophet book, which I read, and those books were full of Ascended Masters information. And I can recall being on Mornay's ship and asking that question, just very innocently, if they were Ascended Masters. And Mornay smiled and Visayas scowled. He was like I was an idiot. And he said, there are no masters. It's impossible to know everything. So, and to contact after that particular one, where it was just Mornay and not Visayas, he brought up the subject that because one comes after, because one comes another dimension does not, because if one comes from another dimension does not necessarily mean that they're ascended anything. He said we just come from different frequencies. Regarding the master, he says, I have to refer back to what Visayas said. It is impossible to contain all knowledge of all things. And in our culture, there are no masters for that reason. We know that is impossible. So you can take that any way you want. I prefer to think that I don't have a master, absolutely, and that whatever knowledge anyone else has, and I do not, I am fully capable of at least acquiring that level of knowledge and experience. Um, and there was this last Sunday, I followed Danu's Irish Herb Garden, and she's a lady in Terry in Ireland, and she teaches herbal classes too. But she did a video about spirit and gardening, and she was talking about how we shouldn't be following anybody, that we need to listen to ourselves and listen to our own intuition and not following the rituals of anything. And I replied, because I've said this before in past videos, that it's the new age trap, it's the new age religion, okay, that you're supposed to do things in a certain way. Okay, oh, to cleanse your aura, to cleanse your chakra system, to do this, to meditate, you're supposed to do it in these specific ways, to call upon things. You have to call upon it in a certain way. You have to say certain words. That's a spell. That's a ritual. That's not the way to do it, people. We are all unique. And because it works for maybe someone else, it's probably not going to work for you. You have to be spontaneous when it comes to asking Creator and the universe what you want, what you need help with. Be very specific also and give detail in what you ask for, okay? But don't do it the same way. You don't have to have a ritual. You don't have to do the same thing every day at the same time. You don't have to do the same. Just do it spontaneously. That's free flowing. That's what we're supposed to be as humans. Okay? Just do it spontaneously in any way you feel like doing it at the time. That's your passion. Okay? So that just reminded me of him talking about this and what she was saying. Says, so those around us, those off world, those in the non physical, if I take what the A's have said literally, and I do, no one should be representing themselves as an ascended master. And I've never followed a guru. I've never followed anybody that claims they were a master, because to me that's really demeaning for someone to go, "Oh, hey, I'm a master. I know everything and you don't. I'm going to teach you." Really? No. We all have it inside us. We already have it inside us. We just have to go inside and pull it out, right? We don't need to idolize anybody. What did the Bible say? You don't idolize. No idolization, okay? But yeah, we do it with Hollywood. We do it with musicians. We do it, uh, yeah, you do it by posting a picture of Jesus or, whatever. Christianity, like I said, they worship like Jesus and not like the Father. I never understood that. Like, I always thought, isn't that idolatry? We're not supposed to be doing that because we ourselves are fractals of the Creator. Okay, you don't you don't worship yourself. Okay, that's ego. So don't do it. He says they may be in a higher realm, but did they ascend from 3D? He says the answer is probably no. Do they know all things? Well, they may know about their density, but they're probably still learning about whatever dimensional plane they're on. They're still learning their plane. They're still living an experience, which means they haven't learned everything yet. Says that's how I look at this, which is why you don't ever hear me use that term ascended master, ever, unless it's tongue in cheek. But I don't recall doing that for quite some time. So there you go. That's their opinion, and I hold to that as well. He says, a sage. A sage doesn't mean they're an ascended master. A sage means they're a teacher, okay? They're a teacher. They bring knowledge to impact others. That doesn't mean they're an ascended master or a master of anything. It just means they contain a higher level of knowledge, okay? He said somebody put that in the chat. Next question. If Earth civilians contact is not that far away, have you been told by the A's what form this contact will take, or will we only get to see it on TV? And he answers, okay. And he kind of laughs and he says, oh no. He says, they will let their presence known. You will know. He says, look, ladies and gentlemen, even those who are completely fast asleep, all of us have spiritual bodies. All of us have souls. All of us have had previous lifetimes. There will be a knowing. There will be a recognition. There will be a spiritual soul acknowledgement that what you are seeing, what you are engaging with, and with whom, there will be a recognition within you that they're here only to acknowledge our own benevolence. It says, now, of course, somebody put Project Bluebeam up on the chat. Again, there will be other signs. There are other conditions, and that's just the technology that can be taken down, that can be turned off, that in fact can be destroyed, which is why it is so important for each one of us to go within. He says, know thyself. Know thyself. When one knows thyself, one knows what's real and what isn't. Because you are then connected to soul. You are connected to your higher self. That part of you, which is not contained in the body, but exists nonetheless, and is always connected to source, creator, great spirit. He says, and ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how to describe that to people who don't know themselves. I know I'm talking to a very evolved, educated group here, or at least a group that's questioning. But I've got neighbors, he says, 3 doors down. And he was like, shoo. He was like, Merlin's more evolved than they are, and they don't want to hear it. So I would be able to relate any of this. I would not be able to relate any of this to them. And there are people like that all over the world, which is why all you can do is bless them from a distance. But if enough of us know what we know and are engaged in the process of raising the consciousness and then the physicality of the planet into another physical realm, then they will either wake up, catch up, or they will transition. And either way, they go back to source. And if they go back to source, the lights are turned back on. Oh, wow. God, was I asleep? He says, yeah, you were. Welcome home. And then they get engaged and start their next journey, their next adventure, and maybe they'll operate from a different parameter. Who knows? He says, who knows? I don't have all the answers. Next question. Venus keeps coming up in a variety of ways, including as the portal between this dimension and higher frequencies. How do you perceive the influence of Venus or Venusians on Terran affairs at this time? And Alex says there are many portals. I mean, every time the A's come here and visit, they come through a portal. Says, and there's a long pause, and he waited, and you could see the wheels turning, and he said, shit. He says, I have an issue with the Venetians. Being that they're next door, why they haven't done more to help us. He says, and I'm not hidden that. Next question. He laughs. And then somebody mentioned at the end of last spring, he talked about the supernova, the light hitting us at the beginning of July. So they were asking that question again, and basically that the light never showed up. Um, and he says, we did get hit with gamma rays. Says lots of gamma rays. He says, but you're absolutely right. He said, no light hit us. He says, I can't explain it. He says, it just came and went. So at least like he admitted to, like we were expecting the big flash of light and it just didn't happen. But we did get hit with those invisible to us gamma rays. Energy, right? We've had a lot of stuff and a lot of people awakened since then, though, haven't we? Next question. Many patriots are taking action to become states nationals. Do you think this process will be automatic for everyone as we announce the switchover to restore the republic? Or uh, will taking these steps be a wise thing to consider doing? He says, wow, that's a great question. He says, I love that question. I've been looking into this myself and have been talking to people here in Colorado that are part of the state national movement. It says, and when I come back from Florida, I'm going to begin the process of doing it myself. So there's your answer. I've done enough research that it's bona fide, it's legal, and I'm going to be taking back my identity and my sovereignty. What happens in the future when the republic is actually reestablished, he says, we'll see where that goes. But for now, I'm going to follow through with the process. And it's not ridiculously expensive. And you get an ID, a driver's license, and he says, if you want one, and you also get license plates because I've seen them. I've talked to police officers. I have retired deputy sheriffs right here in my complex that I've talked to about this, and they're like, yeah, one of them has done it himself. So a state national is basically uh, saying that you're a sovereign from the government, like you're a separate entity, you're a sovereign human being. Basically, the government can't touch you. So that's something to look into for all of us, right? So when I come back, he says, from Florida, I'm going to be going through the process myself. There you go. Next question. I'm totally on board with star seeds coming from the future to help. I have one question I can't answer. How come if we come from the future or higher dimensions and more advanced civilizations, when we come here, we carry heavy traumas from our past lives, but from our bloodlines and our ancestors, which is unhorrible, but from ourselves, wouldn't we have healed all of our traumas physically in our more advanced civilizations before coming here? And Alex says, okay, here's your answer. Those traumas that you take on belong to the DNA lineage lines that you have been born into. It says it is cellular memory. Now you have your answer. Next question, flat or sphere theory, true or false? And Alex says false. We live on a sphere. We live on a sphere. It's not flat. Next question, can you please speak about the firmament? If it's there, who put it there, when and why? Some say we cannot leave Earth, or that the secret space programs say it's a myth. What is your view on this? And Alex says it's a myth. It's a myth. Next question, please. Yeah, and then there was something asked about, he goes into something, I forget the question, but it was something about Hollywood and would Hollywood be around? And he basically says, yeah, that there's lots of real estate agencies that are selling these homes in Hollywood. And I've said this on previous videos. if you go on Zillow or whatever and you do like look up Malibu, California, you look up that area like Hollywood Hills, just look at MSN.com. I mean, they lie, but there's all kinds of stuff all the time about all these stars either getting divorced, selling their multi-million dollar homes. Like it's been going on for the past 2 years, like excessively, extremely. It's not just like, it's everywhere. Selling their belongings. Um, so he brought that up too, and he says, uh, there's no one there anymore. He says that should tell you what's happening to that industry. He says it's in my opinion, um, those of whom are close to me that are independent filmmakers or freshman independent filmmakers, that Hollywood is going away. And the thing is going to independent filmmakers who have a heart, who have a consciousness, and are absolutely not interested in any of the dark agendas. They want to empower using film, using documentaries, and they want to educate using the same. He says that's the direction it's going into. No more brainwashing. Says, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you on the 28th. I'm not sure where I'll be or how it'll all work out, but I'll see you on the 28th. Thank you so much for supporting our little webinar and supporting me and James and JP. We try to keep it fresh. He laughs. He says, keep it real. And I think you guys are awesome. He says, you guys are awesome. Carry your lightsabers. He says, don't put them down. He says, use them. Says, we have to defend the realm and one another if we're going to remain free. He says, and that's it. See you on the 28th. God bless all of you. So there you have it. Another question and answer. I think his webinars are getting a little bit longer every time. So yeah, I try and cut it down by taking out some of the comments, like things he doesn't know about, like I said, or just repetition of questions, basically things he's already covered. We try to put new information on here. Something that I just wanted to say, I'm so excited about. I think it's December 5th it starts. For any of you that have read the Philip Pullman books of The Golden Compass, any of you who have been following his Dark Materials on HBO, um, that third and last season, the last book, is starting in a few weeks, and I am so excited. Oh my gosh, if you look at the trailer on YouTube, it is gonna be fabulous, fabulous, because finally, like, Lyra and her dad and the angels and the witches all get together and they take down the magisterium. They take down the church, the authority. And I'm so excited to see that. So it looks really fabulous. And I have been waiting a long time to see that last season. Um, I'm like, I already read all the books, but I reread them and I'm kind of halfway through the last book, and I'm not sure I'll get a chance to read the last of it before the third season comes in, but oh my gosh, it looks fabulous. Um, and I do kind of want to see, I think tomorrow starts the second Black Panther movie, the Wakanda. I don't know, I didn't think I would like the first one, but I like a lot of the Marvel movies, like, because there's so much truth in it too. It's hidden truth. Watch any Marvel movies because you'll see a lot of stuff in there. But this one looks really good too, so I'm really interested in it. And I think it all has to do. Was it Quetzalcoatl? One of the Mayan gods, yeah, like, is in this movie. So it's really interesting. So hopefully, maybe I'll go this weekend and see that. So anyway, thank you so much, all of you, for watching. Um, I love all of you guys. I wish I could give you all a great big hug. If you like this, share this. Hit the like button. Um, God, I wish I didn't have to work, because there's so many other videos I want to do and there's things I want to explain, and Gosh, and I just haven't had time. But keep being that lighthouse. Keep being that lighthouse. Shine your light as bright as you can out there in the darkness so those lost ships at sea can find us. Okay. We're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and it's coming pretty fast. So say we all. Love all of you. Thank you so much. And we will see you next week. Bye.